Good morning. I hope you all had so much fun making your ice cream last week. I'm so excited for this week's experiments. It's going to be a couple different experiments that all resolve around Coca Cola. So the first experiment is making rust from a very rusty pan disappear. So rust is from iron 3 oxide, and iron 3 oxide, or this rust, forms because of household chemicals and just the air around us. But lucky for us, Coca Cola has phosphoric acid in it, and this phosphoric acid, when placed in our rusty pan, will dissolve the iron 3 oxide. So I'm first going to have my rusty pan and hope this doesn't explode. I'm going to pour some just over the bottom. And I'm going to let that sit for 5 hours. So if you see, I only covered the bottom, so we're going to see if the Coke can dissolve the rust from the bottom of the pan. So it's not going to take it off the sides, but that way we'll have something to compare it to, a before and after. Okay, so it's been sitting for about 6 hours now, so I'm going to dump out the Coke and rinse it a little and see if it got any better. So let's rinse it a little. Whoops. So it is still pretty rusty, but if we go back to our original picture, it was a lot rustier. So I think it was hard because of how rusty the pan was. I would love to see your results if you tried it with something like a penny or something a little less rusty to start with. But I think it did pretty good compared to, you can see the sides, it was definitely a lot rustier before. So our second experiment uses milk and Coca Cola. So milk has proteins, fats, microelements, and water. And when we combine the milk and those ingredients with our Coca Cola and that phosphoric acid, it'll force the milk and these elements to curdle, which means to separate or form clumps. So let's see what happens. I'm first going to pour the Coke. Okay. Just a little closer to you guys. And pour a little more. Okay. And I'm going to quickly close it after I pour the milk in. So this experiment too needs to sit a little bit. So I'm going to put it off to the side and we will come back to it and see what happened. So this next experiment, we are going to see how much sugar does Coca-Cola contain. So we have our original Coca-Cola and our Diet Coke. And so I had to move inside for this one because we need a stove in order to do this one. So I'm going to use 200 milliliters of Coke. So I'm going to pour it in here. So at 200 milliliters, I'm going to turn both of my burners on. Make sure your parents are helping you with this step. So I'm going to let them both heat up a little. And so remember, this is my regular Coke. And I'm going to pour it onto here. Just keep watching that. I'm going to rinse this really quick. We want to make sure it's clean before using our Diet Coke. So that same 200 milliliters. Flip it around here. Okay, now I'm going to pour this in my other pan that is also already heated. And we're going to watch both of them until all the liquid has completely dissolved, and then we'll see the differences and talk about it. So while we're watching, I'll kind of talk about the two differences between Coca Cola and Diet Coke. So the main ingredients in the classic Coca Cola are sugar and water. As the water evaporates, the mixture thickens and forms a black mass resembling tar. So we haven't seen that yet, it's still pretty liquidy, but that's what we are hopefully going to see. So that thickened liquid that'll look like tar mainly consists of caramelized sugar. So that's how we'll be able to see all the sugar that's in regular Coca Cola. Diet Coke contains sugar substitutes instead of regular sugar. So those substitutes are much sweeter than sugar and are added in tiny amounts. They make the drink every bit as sweet as the classic version, but without all that sugar. So as a result, we should see a smaller amount of residue in the Diet Coke than we do in the regular Coke. So that took kind of a while for it to boil over so that all the liquid was gone, but let's see what we have. So this first one is our regular Coke. Very gross. So it's kind of that tar substance. So this is all that sugar in the regular Coke. Now let's move over to our Diet Coke. So we still have some, and it kind of stuck more to the pan, but there's not nearly as much tar in the Diet Coke as there is with our regular Coke. And remember, the Diet Coke has those sugar additives, so those additives that kind of make it still have that sweet taste just like the regular Coke. So this next experiment is one that you might be slightly more familiar with. It uses Mentos and Coca Cola. So if you are familiar with this one, you may also be familiar with the reaction that will happen. But Mentos have a rough surface, which aids in the creation of carbon dioxide gas when added to our Coca Cola. So when I have my bottle of Coca Cola, I'm going to add in some Mentos and we will see what happens. You notice I also moved to a different area because this one is a little more messy, so I would definitely make sure you're outside for this one. So I switched locations again and I got another bottle of Coke because you have to have the Coke unopened yet. So my Coke had been sitting for too long and that's why it didn't work. So we're going to try it again. This time with an unopened bottle of Coke and my Mentos. So pay attention to the gas and the foam that comes out of the bottle. I'm going to take some Mentos out. Oops. Let's do maybe 3 of them. There's the reaction we were looking for. So you definitely want to be outside for this one. So that's all that CO2, carbon dioxide, that was pushing it out. So that's it for our Coke experiments. I sure had fun doing the experiments. I hope you had fun watching and maybe trying some of them at home.